Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join Mary Ann Faremouth on today's show.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Radio Show, a division of Authors Marketing International, an organization that supports authors all over the world. My name is Mary Ann Faremouth. I will be hosting this episode this evening, and I am a multi-genre author, a career coach, and also a recruiter. And I am really delighted to visit with the author we have on the show tonight, because I met her about, 3 years ago at a national conference. And I was so impressed with her, and I've since worked with her. So I can certainly put my stamp of validation on what she does. According to her own bio, she says, don't be fooled by the name, the hair color, or even the shoes, which I don't think you're going to see tonight. But anyway, Michael Sherlock is serious about business. She is dedicated to creating positive, productive, and profitable workplaces and helping individuals and businesses unlock their ultimate potential. Before she did her own company, her own global training company, Shock Your Potential, Michael was vice president of two multinational medical device companies responsible for net revenue exceeding 75 million, and had as many as 500 employees at a time. In 2020, she released her own Shock Your Potential app, on-demand training tool for leadership. And obviously she's an author. She's written 2 books, but I'm really, really proud to have her on the show tonight, because she has been chosen as the number 12 of the top female entrepreneurs to watch in 2021 by enterpriseleague.com. So without further ado, help me introduce Michael Sherlock. Michael, say hello to everybody.
Well, hello, Mary Ann. Hello, everybody. And if they are watching the video, I did bring some of my fabulous shoes that I am wearing. So I decided to take one off just to show them.
Oh, I think they're wonderful. Well, I'm one of your biggest fans. We've worked together. You've done some great things to help me promote my books. And I know you've written 2 books. And you and I both know, as authors, writing is the easy part, but tell us why you wrote the books you wrote, and how you got started in all this.
Oh, you got it. Well, I'll start with my books, because that's fun. I've published 2. I'm actually in the process of writing 3 different ones all at once right now. One being actually my first novel. My 2 business books, the very first one was called Tell Me More: How to Ask the Right Questions and Get the Most Out of Your Employees. And it's a leadership story. It's told and written in novel format, but it's about taking the lessons that I learned from managing as many, like you said, as up to 500 people at a time, and how I did that, achieved success, but also kept my sanity. And the second book I wrote was called Sales Mixology, or that I published. And it's Sales Mixology: Why the Most Potent Sales and Customer Experiences Follow a Recipe for Success. So leadership and sales are my passion. That's where the juncture of all the things that I love to do come together. So it's been a joy to do that. And now where I am today, owning actually 2 businesses. So I own 2 companies. It's the opportunity for me to spread my message in a different way and learn to reach people who learn through different mediums. Because as you know, you can be in front of a group. Earlier today, I had 100 and so people on a webinar. You can be on conference calls, you can be in Clubhouse, but there's a lot of us that know that the medium of reading and writing are not only lethargic from the writing standpoint, but from the reading standpoint, it's really about how some of us gain and really embrace knowledge.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And, we've talked about this many times before. Writing a book really is, like we said, the easy part. And it's, a lot of people agonize over, I want to write a book. How am I going to do it? I mean, it's not, I'm not going to say it's easy. It's not easy. But compared to, what happens after you write that book, I think we both agree that, the writing part is the easy part. And, of course, being a member of organizations like, Authors Marketing International and different things of this nature certainly help you promote it if you're an indie author. But, Michael, I think what you're doing is so needed right now. I mean, I was talking to another author the other day, and they said during COVID, book production, books came out like 70,000 plus a month. And I think that, a lot of people through COVID, stopped in their tracks and reevaluated where they are, what they want to do. And I think what you're doing is so great and innovative. And tell us a little bit, when I first met you 3 years ago, you didn't have all these projects on the horizon, but I know that, you've helped me a lot with my books. And, so tell us the different things, as an author and as an entrepreneur you do in the author arena.
Yeah. And you make so many great points. I mean, for me, the writing process actually was pretty easy with my books. I enjoy writing. It comes easily. The editing part is the part that makes me crazy because I could edit forever. But one of the things, before I published, I had this vision, this dream that at some point in time, you were going to get handed this magical check and these companies were going to come, these publishing companies were going to come along and they were going to take care of all your marketing, and your books would just magically sell because you were fabulous and you had a fabulous message. Well, you and I are fabulous and we have fabulous messages with our books, but they don't magically sell. And that just made me crazy. Now, luckily, I have a team at my disposal, and I have a large group of people that work for both of my companies, and they are experts in marketing. And from a selfish standpoint, I started to say, how can I get more people, not just to buy my books, but to get invested in my books and what I'm trying to accomplish? So we came up with what we call the Shock Your Potential Bookstore. So, if you went to shockyourpotentialbookstore.com, then you'll find what we're trying to do is make a different connection between readers and the authors who've written these books. The majority of our authors there are nonfiction, so they're business book related, but we're also getting a lot of new fiction entries, which is fun. But when people are saying, hey, I want to buy a book on recruiting, for instance, and they say, I want to know about Mary Ann's book. Well, it's one thing to read the reviews online on Amazon or to have somebody else even recommend it, but to hear from Mary Ann about why did you write this book? What was your motivation? What did you get through? What was your point? By creating a different medium, we're creating more engaged readers, and we get to promote people in a different way. And it's been really fun. But honestly, Mary Ann, I started out selfishly. I'm like, I need to promote my books more because once COVID hit, I wasn't going out and speaking and training, which was how I sold my books before. So now we have a different way to reach audiences to make them not only enjoy the books, but feel more connected to the authors. So to your point of 70,000 books a month coming out there, how do you connect with any of them? How do you know who's really right for you? And that's what we're trying to bridge, is that gap between the book, the knowledge, and the investment in that person and their mission.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And I think during COVID in 2020, you even did an app, right?
Yes.
Tell us about this app. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, and we're revamping the entire app right now with all the knowledge we learned from a year of it. But I wanted to be able to get a tool into people's hands where it's not just to access our bookstore, for instance, but to access a lot of different training that is on demand to help people, whether they're entrepreneurs, they're single business entities, they're somebody trying to climb the top of the ladder. How do I have access to resources that will help me today? And so we'll see a new iteration of the app coming out here very, very shortly. I'm so excited because we're learning and developing. And our whole goal is to have that be another way that young professionals are connecting and not just looking at an Amazon review, for instance, to understand more about what they can do, or going to YouTube to research, how do I apply for a job? We want people to actually become engaged in their own training and development and their professional development on the way. And along the way, this has helped a lot of people like you and I who need to figure out, how do I market in these economies and how do I do it and really know that I'm making a difference?
Well, I think that's wonderful. All right. Well, I think that we need to let our sponsors do their thing. But before I break for that, I want to say that I think Michael is doing some great innovative things. I think with the millennials being 51% of the population these days, I think that all the wonderful innovative things you're doing are right on task and on target. So let's take a break, let our sponsors do their thing, and we'll come right back.
Mary Ann Faremouth is a career consultant with 30 years experience in the national recruiting world, a multi-award-winning author in multi-genres, and a speaker that gives presentations to help you succeed. Her book, Revolutionary Recruiting, made the top 20 global list of recruiting books. Find her on Amazon, your favorite bookstore, or at Faremouth.com.
To embrace your children's imagination, check out Diane Floyd Bame's books for kids. There's The Moonling Adventures, all about the animals in the Serengeti. And then there's Harry the Camel, learning to love yourself just the way you are. Then The Little Girl in the Moon. There's one about friendship, another one about the big ideas, which is an inspirational story. And then Tour Tycho Town, right there in Tycho Crater on the moon. All of Diane Floyd Bame's books are available at B4R Store.
Hello, I am the author Denise Bryson. My first book is The Things That Cross My Mind, Inspirational Poetry with Life Lessons. And then my audiobook is Love's Reality. And it is also inspirational poetry with a jazzy flair. And then my new book is The Sex, the Lies, and the Soul Ties. They're really short stories written from a poetic expression. And then I have my first children book series, the Blinky series, which the first book is called Meet the Coins, and it is both in English and Spanish. And then the new book From Coins to Bills. I am the author, Denise Bryson.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join Mary Ann Faremouth on today's show.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show. My name is Mary Ann Faremouth. I'm a multi-genre author. I'm hosting this episode tonight. And I'm delighted to have with me Michael Sherlock, the entrepreneur CEO of Shock Your Potential. Michael is an author, a very successful author, but she's also a very successful entrepreneur. And she's talking about all the innovative things she's doing these days to really help writers, authors, and leaders and people in the workplaces to really become their best self. Michael, say hello to everybody and tell us you and I in the Blue Room before the episode started to film, we talked about a really cool project, a media project you have going forward. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I am so excited about this. Interesting thing happened in COVID, so I'll give you just a little bit of background. Is prior to COVID, 98% of my business income came from me getting on an airplane, going to speak and train somewhere in the world. And obviously when that stopped, then there was a moment of, well, first of all, I, curled into a ball and stuck my thumb into my mouth and I cried. And then I said, okay, Sherlock, let's pick yourself up. We got to do something. And I reevaluated my business and I actually doubled down and invested in my business. I hired additional people. I put a new focus on marketing. I took a look at our websites. We developed our Shock Your Potential app. So everything, I took that time and said, let's dissect everything and figure out how we come out on the other side of this, making sure that I don't have to get on an airplane ever again if I don't want to, that I can do it when I choose to. And one of the things that came out of that was a resurgence for me in connection with the media. And I know you do a lot of media things, Mary Ann, and you know how important being in that limelight, getting that call from a news producer is, because if they know they can trust you and they know they can count on you, you will get airtime. And so one of the things that I realized as we were moving through this and navigating this is that I have so many connections within the media, but they don't always know where to go when they need someone. Maybe they need a travel expert. Maybe they need to have somebody that talks about recruiting strategies that are changing in COVID, post-COVID. Maybe they need somebody to talk about how you have difficult conversations when you're giving performance reviews. All those things that all of us who are authors on the business side, all of us have expertise, but we don't all have the direct connections. So this fall, we are launching what we call Shock Your Media Potential. And what this will be is a site where people who want to be able to be connected with news producers of, TV, radio, newsprint, where those producers will be able to access what we do perfectly. So any examples of our books, any examples of our talks, our media appearances, and we are creating a home where we will be inviting those in the media all around the globe to be able to access. And so what it does is it brings things together. It allows us to show that we do have expertise. So, you and I know that having a book makes you a more desired speaker. Well, this makes a desired media interview even more desired because not only of your books, but also proof of concept that they can see you and see examples of how you've performed before. And those are the things that bring us together and bring us new opportunities. And that's where I'm focused now, which is really, really fun.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And I think that's exciting. And again, I think you have your finger on the pulse. I know, I have a new podcast show, and I started it because in the old days, Michael, you'd call into a company to do a cold call and you get the HR person, but, nobody's at the office anymore. Right. So, I've been doing this a long time. People know me. And I'm thinking, if they're in the car and they hear on the radio and they're doing, my podcasts are so big right now and they hear me, then they're going to call me. So I think what you're doing is certainly, a sign of the times and a new innovative way to help people expand and grow. And I think it's a wonderful thing for authors, because I think that, authors are going through a transition as well. Mm-hmm. And so I think having a media arm available to us is something that will certainly do well. And so if somebody, for example, wants to get involved with you on this, do they have to sign up for a certain amount of time, or how's that going to work?
Well, anybody who signs up before the end of 2021 is actually going to get on for 2 years at a really reduced price. So I think I sent you some links. We'll probably have them in the show notes, but if anybody has any questions, they can certainly email me at michael@shockyourpotential.com and I'll send the details. It's really a very low entry point. What we're trying to do is create a hub, and eventually that hub will grow so big that there's going to be other opportunities from it. But I just wanted to leave you with this thought on it too, is that, when I get done with an interview with maybe my local 6 ABC News here in Philadelphia, then sometimes those reporters or those anchors or those producers call me again and say, hey, do you know anybody who talks about XYZ? And that puts me in a tough position, because unless I know what somebody's capable of, I don't necessarily want to give them somebody that might not do well on camera. So what this allows us to do is allow those people in the media to see for themselves and make decisions about who they think will be good TV or good radio, or be a reliable source for newsprint or magazines. And that way we can have people come together and have proof of concept of what they can do. That builds us all. So it's very exciting to me. I do believe it's going to be a game changer. I'm just going to say it's a little self-serving as well, because then I get to be the one that's, going to be able to promote it and talk about it. But the whole goal is to make sure that we're actually raising the boat for everybody.
Well, and I think what you're doing is in line with, that wonderful motivational speaker, Zig Ziglar, when he said, Michael, the more you help others get what they want, the more you'll get what you want. So I'm not so sure it's only self-serving. You're putting something out there.
It's not only.
I know that's really helping other people, and I think that's a great idea. The other thing I was really interested in when we talked in the Blue Room is that you've got so many different programs going on, but you're also very global. And how did that all happen? I remember, when I met you a few years ago at a national conference, you were doing some really cool things, but you weren't as big and global as you are now. How did you make that big leap? How did you do that?
Well, actually, I have to say I really was. I probably just didn't talk about it as much. So I've been very, very fortunate that in my corporate career, I had a great deal of global exposure. So when I worked for the two different medical device companies, I was sought out after as someone who would go and work with other sister companies across the globe. And so that gave me some street cred on a global level. And it also connected me to many other businesses and people around the world. But since I went, on my own and started this business in my second business, which is called Kukwa Biz, which is definitely global because it's with people based out of Kenya, it really gave me a new opportunity to reach new levels. So I was just trying to think as you asked me the question, how many countries I've spoken in. It's at least a dozen. I think it's less than 20, but it's somewhere in the middle there. But when we work at that level, we work globally, we find out that regardless of where we are, we're all very similar in terms of what we're trying to accomplish, but the ways we accomplish them may be different. And so the more opportunities I get to see and experience those other cultures, the richer I become, and thus more doors open up for me as well.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And I think the cool thing about you that I've always really admired is that you talk with the person, you identify who they are, what they're trying to do, and then you really honor who they are and help them where they are get to a better place, a bigger place, a more expanded place. And I just think that's a great thing. I mean, you really try to help that person expand and grow and honor their own kind of gigs of what they're doing and how they want to do it. So we have about a minute left here before we go to our sponsors. But before we go to our sponsors, let me ask you this: if somebody was an author and they felt like their books really weren't doing what they wanted them to do, they weren't selling enough, and they wanted to grow, well, how would you, in 1 minute or less, advise them? What would you tell them to do?
Well, first of all, is the question of what do you want to accomplish with it? In the beginning, the sales of my books were ancillary to my speaking, so that was the trip to get me to more speaking opportunities. But now that that's changed a little bit, now my desire is to roll them out to especially younger managers. So I'm using these as examples to say everybody's goal with their books are different. And if your dream is to make it big, then you're going to have to operate big. You're going to have to think big. You may have to invest in advertising. You definitely have to do networking. But if your goal is to have a sweet spot, then that's something that you can honor as well. But the end result is if you've gone to the work of writing a book and publishing the book, no matter how you publish it, then something in you wants it in the world. Once you know exactly what you want that to be, what that it should be for you, then it's time to sit down and plot a course how to make it a reality. And when you put enough thought to it and you put it out to the universe, the opportunities will come to you and you will seek them out.
I think so. All right. Well, that's wonderful. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Let's take a break for our sponsors and we'll come right back.
Publishing marketing package for authors. A $1,500 value, save 40% now. Includes a 6-piece marketing kit of 250 bookmarks, 250 business cards, 250 postcards, 1 table banner, 1 table runner, and 50 download cards, plus book cover design, ebook creation, PDF setups, upload to Ingram Spark, scroll placement, video commercial, and interview on IBS. Plus much more. Email bourgeoismedia@look.com for details or bourgeoismedia.com.
Hi, I'm Mel Greenberg, author of Running with Our Eyes Closed, book 1 in the Empty Nested series. To the world, Samantha has the perfect life. 3 wonderful children, a loving husband, so she thought, and a life split between Dallas and Italy. When her youngest leaves for college, it all comes crashing down, forcing Samantha to re-examine everything. Over 7 days in one of the most romantic countries in the world, Samantha faces the past she thought she'd overcome and begins to redefine her role as a woman, a wife, and a mother.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to care for a loved one? Well, during COVID, almost all of us have been doing just that. I'm Charlotte Canyon, award-winning author, actress, and speaker. And my book, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying, shows you how you can revive, thrive, and survive with 4 golden rules. You have to love one another. You have to respect one another. You have to have patience with one another. And most of all, you've got to forgive one another. I'm Charlotte Canyon, and I approve this message.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join Mary Ann Faremouth on today's show.
Welcome back to the Indie Beacon Show. My name is Mary Ann Faremouth, and I'm the host for this episode this evening. And I'm thrilled to have with me Michael Sherlock, an author, an entrepreneur, an app creator, and now a media star, soon to be. Michael, you've got so many great things on your platform. And again, as I mentioned early on, I've worked with you, and you've really helped me grow my business, my book business. But you know, I think we're both kind of alike in some ways, in that we're all about the greater good. We have a little bit of a spiritual bent. We all about, universal laws and all those kinds of cool things. But, you really offer writers and entrepreneurs a lot of wonderful resources. So if someone is listening to this program or seeing it through Indie Beacon Authors Marketing International, how do they get a hold of you? And also, how do they find your books?
Well, very good. Well, first of all, if you just go to shockyourpotential.com, you'll find everything you need there. So you'll find me, you'll find the links to my books, everything you possibly need. But people can reach me directly at michael@shockyourpotential.com. And it's just like it sounds like a man's name, Michael, and just at shockyourpotential.com. I love responding to people who've heard me on podcasts, because it's such a great testament to the fact that podcasts really are an incredible medium where people are enjoying and learning in a different way, like we talked in the beginning about books. So I'm welcome. I love it when people reach out to that any way they can, and I'm happy to answer questions and see if I can be of help. And if I can't, certainly to turn them to a direction that I think may be beneficial to them.
Great. And if somebody wants to hear your podcast, are you on all the major podcast platforms like iHeart and Spotify and Stitcher and all those?
Oh, absolutely. We are. Plus at the shockyourpotential.com site, you will find our podcast there. If you search Shock Your Potential app, you'll find us there, and all the major platforms. And we put content out 5 days a week. So it's definitely a labor of love. I absolutely adore our podcast, and I'm very, very thankful that we continue to grow.
Well, that's wonderful. And how do you have guests on your show, or do you just talk, or how do you do it?
We have guests every day of the week. It's kind of crazy at times, but I typically batch. So I will do all of a month's worth of podcasts in about 10-day period. And during that time, we tape them all for a month. We're a couple months out, and we plot them, get them all edited. And that's thanks to my incredible team. I have an incredible team that does that. We actually do that for other people's podcasts as well. So it makes it easy. All I have to do is show up and give a great interview.
Well, that's wonderful. And in closing, I mean, we're starting to run out of time here. We have a couple of minutes left, but if there were three really important points that you would want to tell an author or a writer, for example, I think the three that I would tell them is, really make sure you work with a developmental editor and a good proofreader to make sure whatever you put out there is quality. I think that's really important. And I would tell them to make sure, you work with a marketing company. If you're an indie author, that you get with a company and work with people like, Authors Marketing International or Indie Beacon. And the third thing would be to really put something out in the marketplace that it's going to help somebody grow and expand. I'm all about, what can I put out there? And like you, I just did some fiction work too. That's really a deviation for me because I'm a nonfiction writer. But I think even my fiction work, kind of circles back into the message that I have about, be your best self. So those are my three things. What would your three things be?
One thing that's brand new for me that I did not do with my first two books that I'm doing with my novel as well as my next business books, and that is get an editorial committee. Have people that you trust give you sage advice. And what you have to also say is, look, I'm not trying to find every word that I misspelled. Okay. I'm not looking for every typo. I can deal with that. But I want you to tell me, does it make sense? Does it flow? Am I missing pieces? Do you like it? What does flow? And that's something I had not done before. And I am so incredibly thankful for it right now. I think to your point, the next thing is understand that marketing, even if a major, random house came knocking on your door tomorrow, marketing is still your responsibility. I never knew that. I never knew that until I, was in the process just on my own. But that marketing and element is absolutely critical. And if you don't do it, your message will not be heard. And the final one is absolutely take advantage of podcasts. I'll tell you what, I put out 20 to 24 episodes every month. I have probably 70% of my guests are authors. And we're actually booked all through 2021, and we have a waiting list of over 200 people for 2022. But there are a ton of podcasts that want to hear your message, that need people like you, whether you're fiction or nonfiction, it doesn't matter. But use that medium. I'll tell you, that's free marketing, except for your time, and you will sell books from it. It just takes the effort to get it going.
Well, we are delighted to have you today on this program. And, I'm one of your biggest fans. You've helped me so much in so many of the things I've done. And I'm just delighted that you've joined Indie Beacon and Authors Marketing International tonight. So again, Michael Sherlock with Shock Your Potential. She has a website. If for whatever reason you don't remember it, you can always contact me at faremouth.com, and I'll certainly direct you to Michael. Thank you so much, Michael, and we'll keep in touch. And for all the listeners out there, check into Authors Marketing International for all the wonderful programs we have going on. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching or listening to the Indie Beacon Show, produced by Biala Bourgeois for the Authors Marketing International LLC. Copyright 2021. Voiceover by Biala Bourgeois. If you would like to be a sponsor of the show, please email us at authorsmarketing@outlook.com. If you would like to be on the show, please complete the form found on our website at indiebeacon.com. You may also watch previous year's shows on the website. Music is Frolic of Words, created for Indie Beacon